The way we describe Consul is as a service mesh for microservices, which then leads to the question, what is a service mesh? So when we sort of take a step back and look at what is the sort of architectural challenges of operating either sort of a microservice architecture or what we used to call sort of a service-oriented architecture, what we tend to find is that what we're really doing is having a collection of different services, right? We might have sort of our front-end login portal, our sort of ability to check the balance of, let's say, a bank account, wire transfers, bill pay, and all of these are sort of discrete services that are part of the larger bank, right, as an example. And so when we talk about these different services, all of them are communicating to each other over a network fundamentally. So the challenge becomes, how do these different services that exist on different IP addresses, on different machines in our infrastructure, how do they first of all talk to each other? How do they discover and route and make sure that our login portal knows how to communicate with our check balance service, right? So this first challenge is the one of sort of routing and discovery. And the way most organizations kind of think about solving that is by putting a load balancer in front of every service. So we'll have a load balancer that is sort of hard-coded at a particular IP. And so each of our services will hard-code that IP address of the load balancer, and that load balancer will take us back to the backend service. Now the challenge with that approach is you end up with a proliferation of load balancers. You need thousands of them in an environment, but two, that they end up usually being manually managed. So I end up having to file a ticket and wait 5 weeks, 6 weeks for someone to go in and add a new instance to that load balancer before traffic gets to it. So we're introducing both sort of a cost penalty, but as well as sort of an agility penalty to how fast can an organization deploy new services, scale up and down, react to machine failures, etc. So what we really start to look at, first of all, is those challenges around routing and discovery. The second set of major challenges is, how do I secure all of this, right? And historically, what you would see is a flat open network, right? We would put all of our security at sort of the perimeter of the network and define sort of the castle walls and use firewalls and WAFs and SIMs and other devices to filter all the traffic coming into the data center. But then once you're in general, what you tend to see is large flat namespaces. Potentially, there are some firewalls in sort of the east-west path, but oftentimes those firewalls are also a management burden. They end up with tens of thousands or millions of rules, they're manually managed, and you have this sort of mismatch of agility, which is it might take me weeks to update my firewall rule, but only takes me seconds to launch a new application. So this creates friction for development teams as they're trying to scale up, scale down, deploy new versions, but are sort of shackled by how quickly firewalls and load balancers can be updated. So those are sort of the problems as we talk about what exists in a microservice or service-oriented architecture. And the goal of a service mesh is really to solve that problem holistically, right? So what that starts with is by having a central registry of what are all of the services that are running. So anytime a new application comes online, it populates that central registry. And so we know, great, service instance B is now available at this IP. So what this lets us do is anyone who wants to discover that service can query the central registry to say, where's that service running? What's its IP? How do I talk to it? So this lets us build much more dynamic infrastructure where as servers come and go or we scale up and down, we don't have to file a ticket and wait weeks for load balancers and firewalls to get updated, right? It comes up, goes in the registry, and can be discovered immediately. The other side of that problem is how do we secure the traffic east-west inside the castle walls, right? So it's not enough anymore for us to just say this network perimeter is perfectly secure. We really have to be realistic and say an attacker will get onto that network, right? And if an attacker does get on that network, we can't have it be wide open. Instead, every service should require explicit authorization. You can only talk to the database if you need to talk to the database, right? And so that really becomes the second sort of challenge service meshes look at solving is how do we let you explicitly define rules around which service can talk to what? So we can centrally define and say my web server is allowed to talk to my database, but we do it at the sort of logical service level. We're not doing it at IP1 can talk to IP2 at a firewall level. And the advantage of this logical service level is it's scale independent. It doesn't matter do we have 1, 10, or 1,000 web servers, the rule web server to database is the same. And so the challenge of this sort of identity-based security is now we need to have service identity. So part of what a service mesh does is distribute certificates to these end applications. These are standard TLS certificates, much like we use to secure the public internet. but we distribute these to our web servers and our databases and our APIs so that they can use it to identify themselves in service-to-service communication. So when a web server talks to a database, it's presenting a certificate that says, I'm a web server. Likewise, the database presents a certificate saying, I'm a database. And what this lets them do is establish mutual TLS. So both sides verify the identity of the other side, but they also establish an encrypted channel. So all of their traffic going over the network is now encrypted. So this is the core idea behind zero trust. We're not trusting our network. It's sort of a TLS layer. We're asserting both identity and encryption for confidentiality. So the final part of that is tie into that central rule set. Just because we know a web server is talking to a database doesn't mean that should be allowed. Instead, we have to talk back to that central rule set and determine, should the web server be allowed to talk to the database, right? So we can centrally manage these rules as to who's allowed to talk to who, but then distribute certificates and distribute these rules to the edge so that at the network layer, services can communicate to each other without going over a central bus, right? So unlike something like an enterprise service bus or technologies that require going through centralized brokers, we can push all of the communication to the edge and it's all node to node. Authorization decisions are made at the edge without having to come back through a centralized bus. So what this really brings us to is, how do we think about what are the requirements for organizations that are adopting a service mesh? So one of those challenges really relates back to the fact that we don't want to go back to a centralized broker or a centralized bus. The moment we have that sort of centralization, we've added the single point of failure. Now all of this traffic potentially has to come back to a central point, and that becomes our bottleneck. So one key thing to look at is how much of these decisions in terms of authentication, authorization can be pushed to the edge without causing that to sort of come back to a central point. So there's this question of what does the scalability of the system look like when we start talking about thousands or tens of thousands of nodes. A second sort of problem is the network is fundamentally our sort of compatibility layer. What lets our mainframe talk to our metal, talk to our VM, talk to our container, talk to our serverless function is that they all speak TCP/IP. The network is the compatibility layer. And so as you look at service mesh technologies, you need it to also be a compatibility layer. So a challenge is, how do I make sure that my modern containerized application is still able to talk back to my mainframe? Because if it's not able to, we end up creating these silos on the network where our different services can no longer communicate, breaking what the network has always given us, which is compatibility between different technologies, different operating systems, different languages. So that sort of compatibility is key. The other thing that's important is how much do our applications have to be aware or be retooled to make use of this technology, right? So particularly if we have thousands of applications, some of which speaking custom protocols, some of which we don't control the source code to, they might be off the shelf, how do we actually make sure they can fit into this environment? And so what's important to understand is, does this service mesh give me just level 4 capability, right? Which is where we really focus on, is that level 3, level 4, to make sure that we get compatibility across every type of protocol. So we don't have to be protocol aware to be able to proxy the traffic, secure it, authenticate, and authorize it. But as we look further up to level 7, for protocols that we are aware of, can we do things like traffic shaping and more intelligent sort of traffic management at that layer? But what we don't want is only a level 7 awareness, where now it's impossible to use protocols that we're not level 7 aware of. This creates a compatibility problem once again. The final thing we want to consider is, what does the operation of the system look like, right? We're starting to put these kind of things at the core of our networks. So taking an outage of these types of systems will impact all of the systems running on top of it, right? Potentially our entire data center. So we want to make sure these are systems that are easy to scale, but easy to make sure that they run reliably and are 24/7 available. So that's sort of how we think about, what are the requirements as an organization evaluates different service mesh technologies.